Hey everyone! This week I'm coming at you with my first episode of my book excerpts. In 2018, I spent the entire year traveling around Asia and Europe. In the end, I decided to write a memoir about it. To introduce what I'm going to talk about and mostly what my book is about, I'll start by mentioning the fact that I really don't like scratch maps. Or I guess I don't really like the idea behind them. This was actually given to me as a gift, and it was a nice gift. It was thoughtful, because I mean, how would someone know that I have this weird inner grudge towards them? Impossible. So thank you for the gift. But when I get to reading my excerpt today, you'll understand a little bit more about why it kind of bothers me. First, I need to explain or give you an introduction about my book. This part that I'm reading was the moment where I actually started writing the book. And that happened to take place in a random, sketchy, dark staircase across from an airport in Borneo in the middle of the night. Let me explain a little bit more. So I was on my way to the highlands in Borneo, which required a bunch of smaller flights. Now I thought that because I had an overnight kind of stay in one of them, I thought, I'll just stay in the airport how I usually do. I basically didn't realize, and none of the staff in the airport seemed to bother to tell me when I arrived, that the airport was going to close soon. At around midnight, the security guard basically kicked me out, and then he was like, oh, well, there's a homestay across the street. I checked on my phone, 24-hour reception while I was connected to Wi-Fi. I was like, okay, cool. I'm fine. So then I go across the street and I get up to the door and there's a sign that says, please call so-and-so number to get inside. I didn't have a SIM card. I don't have no connection. How am I supposed to call you? Hence why I was in the staircase overnight. And basically, I didn't have anything to do overnight, so I read my camera manual in all 3 languages. Then I tried to meditate for a bit, and then finally I thought, you know what? Actually, I'm going to write. And so I started writing. And this is the story. So as I'm reading, you might see my eyes kind of just reading monotonously, so just be aware that I am actually reading because I can't possibly memorize my book. That is ridiculous, obviously. So here goes. There's a certain feeling I get sometimes when I meet other backpackers. Some of them come off as pretentious and exclusive to me, which seems odd because these are people we perceive as being open and easygoing. These are the people we imagine as being laid back and relaxed, chill enough to keep your beer cold for hours. But for some reason, I feel uncomfortable when I see a group of people wearing hipstery clothes and a collection of festival bracelets on their arms, maybe paired with a tattoo of some kind of map, compass, or travel-inspired quote. I get that feeling that I don't quite fit in that I'm being judged. I hear conversations of people boasting about where they've been and how they visit all the non-touristy areas. And they proceed to ask each other which countries they've scratched off their world map. If I had told them that I had been to Machu Picchu, would they think that's too touristy? Would I all of a sudden not be cool enough to be a backpacker? It's almost as if they are in some kind of traveler's contest rather than simply traveling for the joy of it. I have a hard time relating to this kind of competitive mentality, and I try to sneak away from conversations when people start to rhyme off their traveling achievements. Although we might be traveling in the same place, sometimes it feels as if the only similarity between myself and these other backpackers is the fact that our personal belongings are contained in a large, dirty backpack, and that whether they like it or not, we are both definitely tourists. I would like to clarify that even though I feel a little awkward in these situations, I have no problem with how anyone chooses to live their life. You have to be yourself, whatever that is, because literally no one else can do it for you. This is essential to enjoying and getting the most out of life, so I apologize if using these stereotypes is awkward for you. If you are sitting there reading or listening and think I am incorrectly classifying you, I'm sorry. Please don't take this as a personal attack. I'm open to anyone I meet, no matter what they look like. So long as they treat me respectfully, I'm open to anyone, no matter how many cliche quotes are written in cursive across their limbs. My real confession here is that I don't actually want to be associated with the term backpacker. I'm really no wannabe at all, even though I certainly look like one as I jumble my oversized backpack onto a bus. I feel disassociated from a lot of the people I meet in hostels and backpacker bars. When I hear bits of slurred conversation, "It's so beautiful here," or "I love the people here, the culture is so lovely," I can't help but think to myself, have you even spoken to a single local here or even seen how they live? Maybe in drinking local beer, you absorb the culture simultaneously without actually experiencing it with your other senses. On my next trip, I might blindfold myself so I can absorb the culture solely by smell. I keep wondering how someone can travel to the other side of the planet and believe they've seen the full picture from hanging out at a beach bar smoking weed with other travelers. Why do I feel so disconnected from so many other backpackers? Maybe it's because I don't travel with a ukulele or parachute pants. All right, I may be taking this a little far. I'm a little wound up. Remember, I wrote this while I was hiding in a staircase in the middle of the night? Those of us who are lucky enough to have the means and access to travel are all different people and will travel differently based on their interests. In reality, I see nothing wrong with how people travel, even if it is getting drunk and taking cliché photos with other privileged travelers. Everyone has the right to spend time how they wish, and they should do what makes them feel happy. End of story. But what does make me uncomfortable is when these kinds of travelers claim that what they love about traveling is experiencing new cultures and getting to know local life. These are things I can't imagine experiencing while sitting beside two foreigners having a pint. Social media and the internet have had a massive impact in all aspects of life, travel included. It influences how we perceive our travel experience before, during, and after our trips. And the more recent use of social media platforms such as Instagram, though, have taken on a whole new role of influencing our decision-making and thought processes. Where we decide to visit, what we decide to do, where we decide to eat, and even what we think about while we're touring around these places are all somewhat influenced by what we've already seen. Are we choosing experiences that truly interest us? And of those experiences we choose, is it as authentic as it was portrayed by those images that we saw earlier? I want us to consider how social media affects our decisions about travel and how it alters our thoughts when trying to enjoy our time abroad. What drives us to get on a plane, a bus, or a train and go somewhere far from home? How much of that has come from our own interests rather than outside influences? How and why are people traveling, and what do they claim to be getting out of it? I want to consider what we can gain from travel and how it can, and maybe should, change us internally. There are many useful things we learn while we travel. For example, you become very resilient to discomfort, which of course brings me back to that night in the staircase in Borneo. What did I intend to accomplish in this solo travel year abroad? This is a valid question, as I've realized that leaving home for a whole year alone is not something most people are willing to do. Understandably, most people, my mother included, expected me to have some kind of purpose. Honestly, I was taking advantage of the opportunity to travel while not having work or school obligations. It felt like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to go on a year-long adventure. I had no plans for any epiphanies or realizations which would bring me clarity for what I wanted to do with my life. When I talk to people about traveling solo, some often say, traveling alone is the best way to find yourself. Or, that's so great you're doing this. It's the best way to discover who you really are. When I hear this, I have to put in full effort to stop my eyes from rolling back into my skull. And instead, I just nod my head in agreement. And this was under no circumstances my intention in traveling solo, nor was I expecting to feel any different about myself after my adventures. In the beginning, I had no real intention or goal for this year, but writing this book in the end, I guess, was my purpose. How we view travel, what we expect from it, is largely influenced by what we see on social media. I hope to reveal some of the truths and realities behind what we are seeing on our screens. This book is a written account of some of the incredible and ridiculous moments I lived through, as well as an objective look on what is influencing us to travel, how we experience it, and what we can truly gain beyond finding ourselves. It also brings up the most important question that we learn to ask after traveling, which is, why not? That's it for my excerpt today. After listening to that, you kind of get an understanding on why I am not a big fan of these scratch maps. You'll notice, in the one that I have nothing scratched off on it. It kind of just stays there. I'm thinking I told my dad I would give it to him actually. But the reason why this whole concept of scratching a country off the list or, finding ourselves, these are very personal gains that you can acquire, I guess, from traveling. But what I think is maybe more worthy of our time is to look at how we change internally, not just for the betterment of ourselves, because yes, we do change better for ourselves, but we also change to be a better person for society and other people around us. Traveling to find yourself is not the best reason to travel. In my book, and what I wanted to introduce to you today was some of the reasons why it is important and what I will get to in more future excerpts that I'll share. Things like becoming more adaptable, becoming more resilient to discomforts and things that make you feel uncomfortable, becoming more open-minded to new things, new people, new places, becoming more tolerant. These are things that really change you as a person that traveling alone can really help you acquire in a short period of time. And that's why I think solo travel is so important. And that is how it changes you to become a better person for everyone else around you. That's everything I'll share for today about my book. I hope that you enjoyed. If you do find what I'm talking about interesting, please subscribe to this channel. I will be sharing future excerpts from my memoir as well. So I hope that it is interesting for you and it makes you think a little bit. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next week. See you next time.